Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien. Uh, this is the Comic Book Countdown. These are comics. I'm going to talk about 9 comics from Wednesday, March 16th, I believe, a full week ago as I record it. I was slow in reading them again. I'd say the biggest pleasures I got this past week were with novelty. Things that felt a little different pleased me a little more for whatever reason. And excuse me. At the end of the video, there'll be a short clip showing everything I picked up today, which is the next new comic book day. I was sitting in a cafe near the comic book store, Books with Pictures, and just decided to make a little film of everything I picked up. So, and in the opening clip there, you saw me on my way to Books with Pictures. I go from my house, walk over to Cloud Nine, and then from Cloud Nine walked to Books with Pictures, which is kind of my regular route these days. Sometimes I then go to Excalibur afterwards if I want a third store. Excalibur is actually closest to my house, and other times I just end up drifting into Excalibur on a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Friday, or a Saturday if I happen to be walking by, or if there's something specifically I know that I missed elsewhere. I don't know if I'll go to Excalibur this time. Anyway, I don't know where I lost my place by talking about that. But so, 9 comics this week. Only one that I felt particularly grumpy about, and that was Beyond the Beyond. Although I loved this cover. I'd never heard of this book. It just was sitting there. Oh, it was $4.99. It's from Scout Comics. It has a lot of pages. I think maybe 32 pages, 34 pages of actual story. But that extra length didn't help it. It just wasn't. It wasn't a well-paced story, and it felt like it was relying on kind of overly familiar sci-fi tropes. And I'm a sucker for the sci-fi tropes, but just somehow the way it was presented just didn't grab me very much. The characters, I don't know. It felt like the work of a writer maybe at the beginning of their career, which is what you would expect from Scout Comics, I suppose. Anyway, so I'm not going to knock these creators. I might be totally excited by comics they're doing later, and I certainly salute them for going deep into the science fiction. But it didn't have that swing to it. Whatever it is that makes the story click, it didn't click that much for me. Not a whole lot of swing either, actually, for World's Finest, which I put in at number 8. I apparently did not. I wasn't looking quickly. This is one I grabbed at Excalibur when I didn't find it elsewhere, and I guess the A cover wasn't available. It's kind of ironic that it's actually sometimes hard to get the main cover. And I didn't look at this closely, and I apparently got a Jerry Seinfeld cover, which, I mean, I don't know. I like Jerry Seinfeld, but I don't really care whether he's in my comics. Anyway, on paper, I thought I would love this comic. It's written by Mark Waid, who's kind of the classicist when it comes to superheroes. It's got an art team I love. Kind of simplifying their work. It's Dan Mora and Tamara Bonvillain compared to what they do in what's that comic they do with Kieran Gillen? I always get these brain farts when I'm on camera. Once and Future. Compared to Once and Future, it was, I don't know, it was maybe smoother, a little simpler. It's actually quite good art. But, and I really, although this was a $5 comic, at least there were no ads and there were 32 pages of art. So, but the story just didn't click with me that much. And I'm someone who likes Silver and Bronze Age stuff, which it seemed to harken back to, but it just didn't, I don't know, just didn't get me, or get to me. It's something I may or may pick up again. I'm really enjoying right now looking at the artwork all over again. and it's a nice package, if an expensive package. Good quality covers and everything. I don't know. Maybe was it $3.90? It probably wasn't $3.99 even without this Jerry Seinfeld cover, because there's no ads and there's more stories. So certainly, but if they're going to charge more and give me a nice cardstock cover and give me no ads, I'm not too upset about that. It seemed like maybe Mark Waid was playing things too safe with this story of Superman and red kryptonite. Maybe if he had let things get a little wilder with the red kryptonite and that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I felt no suspense. No, maybe it's just me and superhero comics right now. That's the other thing. I dropped all my Batman in general, although obviously I picked up a Batman comic, and I haven't been picking up a lot of other superhero comics either. So maybe I'm out of phase with superhero comics. I don't know. In at number 7 was Slumber, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I have to say the cover art by Nathan Fox, and whoever colored it, maybe Nathan Fox did, left me expecting art like this on the inside. And unlike most Image comics, the cover artist was not the interior artist. The interior art is fine. The color's a little, especially compared to that cover, it just doesn't pop as much. It's a little subdued. And the story is kind of cool, but it also seems kind of familiar about someone, maybe they're tracking a serial killer in someone's dreams or something like that. And all of the elements felt somewhat familiar. I think I'll definitely give this at least one more issue to see if I'm hooked. It was only $3.99, and it was a lot of pages, but it almost might have helped that if they had less pages and had to tighten up their story, I suppose. But overall, especially now as I look back on it, I'm definitely curious to see what happens next. But I think just because of the overfamiliarity of the story and that the art's good, but maybe not like there's so much good art out there right now that it's just a little less exciting than I thought it might be. More exciting than I expected it to be was King's Vengeance. I picked up number 1 and liked it. I liked number 2 a whole lot better. It really felt deeper into this. I don't want. I keep having to, for things like this, having to fall back on Samurai Jack, but into a very more violent and grim than Samurai Jack, but a kind of cool, fast-moving, violent, visually kind of exciting story. A lot of brownish color. But still, I really enjoyed reading it. It was a very fast read. Only a little bit happens. I wonder, I've only read one paperback volume of the manga Berserk, but I wonder if this is influenced by that. Now, with this issue, I started to wonder that. Or maybe there's some other manga or anime that is influencing it in some way. But it's much faster paced than the one volume of Berserk I read. Anyway, I'm now looking forward to this. I hope it lasts a while. It's also from Scout Comics, $3.99 also. So that's good. Maybe I should have ranked that one higher. But I think because it was such a quick read and because of the color, because I'm picky about coloring, I ranked it lower. I got a big kick out of Quad. These aren't numbered, but this is the third Quad book. I think the second Quad, I assume there's going to be 4 Quad books total. I think the second Quad book so far is definitely my favorite. But this one was a fun short story. It was another dystopia about, or even more of a dystopia about a city. And it's kind of funny because in theory, these are 4 different stories by 4 different writer-artists, all set in the same post-apocalyptic future where technology doesn't work so well anymore. But 2 of them so far have chosen to say, well, there's these cities where technology does work, and tell their sort of separate science fiction story in those cities. But I don't mind that. I don't have to have them fit into the basic premise perfectly. This was a very bitter, sad dystopian story. It might have worked. I enjoyed it, and it was definitely in the shape of a short story. With just kind of a bitter, sad, quick ending. But I would have enjoyed it a little more. I think I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I would have enjoyed it a little more if these trash men who encounter the person who lives in the dystopian city react more to his plight, which is ultimately not very good. But anyway, interesting. I've been digging black and white art lately, especially with lots of gray tones. And there's another one coming up in the books I just picked up today that looks like a really cool black and white comic. And I really dug the Little Vampires or Little Monsters comic with Dustin Nguyen's black and white the other day. And speaking of black and white, actually, I had a great time reading Shudder, even as I groaned at the ending of each story. I'm thinking of this book as this comic. I think it's coming out 6 times a year, maybe. Or is it monthly? I think it's 6 times a year. Published bi-monthly, yeah. I'm thinking of it as loving the art and laughing at the stories. I don't know if they're meant to be laughable. It's a little bit. It's still. I'm kind of over my sadness that the stories don't reach the levels of the art. But still, it's hard not to mention, I guess, that if only there was just a little more to the writing. Not that there's any sloppy writing or anything, but they're all aimed at their very goofy horror twist endings. And I think some people love that more than I do. Interesting thing is I think 3 of the stories in here were Westerns, one with a werewolf, one with a ghost, and one with an unfair hanging. So yeah, that was kind of a theme, even though on the cover was this famous Frank Frazetta cover, which is a reprint. I think it originally appeared on Eerie or Creepy, but I've seen it in many places since. But they actually do it's nice that they actually do, when they get old Frank Frazetta comic, they actually cover, they actually attempt to do a comic based on that image. So here they have a soldier who becomes the lover of this Valkyrie who's reaping the dead during wartime. Not sure if it's World War I or World War II. Oh, it's Afghanistan. Wow. Okay, very timely. Anyway, it begs the question to me with these great artists that Shudder manages to get, and I can't imagine Shudder pays as much as some other comics. Why can't other publishers get these artists, or artists of this old-fashioned caliber? They have good old-fashioned comic book art qualities, and I don't know why other publishers don't want that. Anyway, that's just me. If I were a publisher, I'd want those artists. I really enjoyed, I Quad was in at number 5, Shudder at number 4. I think I hadn't been giving the numbers. Silver Coin is in at number 3. This is probably my favorite issue of Silver Coin yet, issue number 10. So issue 5, the end of the first arc, had a story written by Michael Walsh, the artist, and basically the showrunner of this series that has a different writer every issue. So in issue 5, he kind of gave us a bit of the origins of the Silver Coin, and now he picks up the story again in modern times, and it was really cool with kind of this druggy punk teenager who can talk to animals and has other magical powers, and she has an encounter with the ghost of the original witch who was involved with the coin, and we get a sense that there's some kind of evil spirit or demon or something within the Silver Coin, along with the ghost of that witch. So it was a very good horror story. And I feel like you could just read issue 5, written by Michael Walsh, and then issue 10, written by Michael Walsh. The other stories are fun little snippets of horror, but they don't, to my knowledge, advance the main story of the Silver Coin. In fact, I want to go back. I want to dig up issue 5 and read that again, and then read this issue 10 again. So I think at first I thought I would fade away from Silver Coin, but this issue's making me feel like I'll stick with it. The next writer up is going to be James Tynion, and the image they show of someone cutting up a body, it's called The Diner, has me very nervous that I might be really, really grossed out. So the writers they have coming up, I don't know if they say when it's going to restart, are James Tynion, Stephanie Phillips, Johnny Christmas, and Pornsak Pinochote, who did The Good Asian. So that's it. It's an interesting variety of writers. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Then in issue 2 is Yosagio Jimbo. It had a little... It's the most familiar, successful book every month. Well, twice a month. And so maybe instead of putting it at number 1, I put it at number 2 because my number 1 had more novelty factor. But this is a very tight, one-and-done ghost story with a bit of social commentary about medieval Japan without ever saying it's about, it's there within the text of the story, but it's not hitting you over the head with it or anything like that. And it has a little twist at the end, which made me think of Will Eisner spirit stories sometimes, where some character is revealed to be something different right at the end of the story, in a way that I just remember from a number of Will Eisner stories that I used to read in the Warren reprint magazines. Anyway, cool issue. And then finally, at number 1, I would have imagined this was going to be like number 4 or 5, but Heavy Metal Drummer number 2. I enjoyed the first issue. This issue was much more of a tight, creepy, psychedelic, disturbing horror story, with quite a bit of disturbing sexual scenes and the like. And I love the color. I enjoy this. I don't feel like it's a heavy metal style of drawing. I feel like it's a punk style, and I feel like the characters look more like punks to me. People who you might see in drawings on the back of a Ramones album or something. But I'm really enjoying it a lot, and it's a mix of B movie elements or grade D movie horror elements, but it's done in such a fun way, and there aren't other comics really like this right at the moment that I can think of. So I just enjoyed it on that level, and the some of the horror is pretty darn horrific, but it's in such a cartoony way that I enjoy it. I enjoy horror that with a touch of humor in it. So yeah, that's everything. Coming up, that little look at my everything I picked up at the comic book stores today. I will talk to you all soon. I won't be on a Sunday chat with Rasa and Terrence this week with Comic Crack. I think they will be doing one together, so you should look out for that on probably on Rasa's channel, but maybe on Terrence's channel. And hopefully I'll be back the Sunday after that. I'm going on a trip to Bellingham, Washington. So if anyone out there is from Bellingham or knows Bellingham and has places to suggest to visit there, especially comic book stores and bookstores, I've been there before and I remember some really cool bookstores. But and hopefully they're still there post COVID. Anyway, so I won't be picking up my next Wednesday. I will still be in Bellingham. But anyway, we'll see when and where I do my next videos, but I'll be back soon. I'll be reading comics. You can follow me on Twitter, where I post every comic book that I've read in the goal of reading 500 comics in a year, that a bunch of people are doing on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at SleepyReader666. So anyway, catch you all later.